Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. In today's episode of Are You Sure This Isn't an RM Transit video, we will be talking about what I think is one of the most underappreciated rail projects in Australia. Today we turn our attention to Victoria and their Regional Rail Revival Program, a program that has already reached $4 billion in funding, and is set to go higher. It is one of the largest rail building programs currently going on in Australia, and is very different to many of the underground city subway projects that continue to be the mainstay of Australian rail building. In this video we'll be going over some of the different parts of Rail Revival, what's being done in the scheme, and why the scheme is so significant for Victoria's regional railways. To set the scene, we have to talk about V-Line, the Victorian Regional Passenger Transport Operator. If you talk to any Australian, they'll probably tell you that V-Line is the best regional transport operator there is. It has the biggest regional network in Australia, thanks to a surprisingly large population in regional Victoria, which is only comparable to the likes of New South Wales, which has a much worse regional rail network. Depending on how you count, Victoria has up to 12 regional rail lines. I cannot stress how unbeatable that is throughout the rest of Australia. The frequencies of the lines are impressive even outside of Australian standards. Examples of this include trains every 40 minutes off-peak to Ballarat and 20 minutes in the peak, and multiple trains a day running to many small regional centres such as Ararat. What's exciting about Regional Rail Revival, however, is how something is being done to basically every line in regional Victoria to meet the increasing demands of the communities. V-Line is a very excellent alternative to the regional people of Victoria and allows them to not live in car dependency like many people in other Australian regional centres do. In recent times, Victoria has embarked on a massive program to renew and improve its regional rail network. All of these improvements are being done under the single project banner, Regional Rail Revival, and project cost is currently over $4 billion. Although that money is sort of distorted by Geelong Fast Rail, and we will be talking about all aspects of this project in the video. We're going to start from the Warrnambool Line, following the Geelong, Ballarat, Ararat, Bendigo, Swan Hill, Echuca, Seymour, Shepparton, Albury, and finally the Bairnsdale Line. We won't be touching the Maryborough, however, as nothing is being done as of yet in Rail Revival. With this video being so long and complex, please don't feel obligated to watch the entire thing, and use the chapter markers at the bottom of the video to skip around to the line that matters most to you. Before we start the video, however, I also feel compelled to talk about the mainstay of Victoria's regional rail fleet, the Velocity train. Since entering service in 2005, they have transformed Victoria's regional rail network. Modern, clean and efficient DMUs, they can reach up to 160 km an hour, which is basically as fast as trains will go in Australia. More velocities are currently being built, and the aim is to have only velocities on the regional rail network by the end of the decade. So without further ado, let's get into this. Victoria's southwest, with the first of our lines, Warrnambool. The Warrnambool Line is one of Victoria's long-distance rail lines, and the main point of the upgrade being completed there is to allow for an extra return service and to replace the currently diesel-hauled fleet with modern velocity trains. As part of this, Stage 1 will include signalling and level crossing upgrades plus a new crossing loop being built. This will allow an extra service when the current fleet is upgraded. Stage 2 will involve stabling upgrades at Warrnambool and upgrading more than 50 activated level crossings to handle the modern DMUs. Stage 2 will be the program that implements the velocity trains, and while work is being done to the Warrnambool Line isn't very exciting, it does enable much better service for pretty little money, and better serves Victoria's southwest. Work being done for the Geelong Line is one of the most expensive parts of the regional rail network. The Geelong Line is the busiest corridor in regional Victoria, as it links the very large commuter population with Melbourne. The first part of the Geelong Line upgrade is between Geelong and Warn Ponds. This involves track duplication between South Geelong and Warn Ponds, as well as many other upgrades including level crossing removals and pedestrian overpasses, and second platforms at stations. Another program going on the Geelong Line, and one that isn't strictly regional rail revival, is Geelong Fast Rail. The aim is to cut down the trip time between Geelong and Melbourne to 50 minutes, and although the Geelong Line is already faster than driving during peak, this reduction in trip time will allow it to be truly competitive with driving at any time of day. Geelong Fast Rail is of in itself a $4 billion project. This upgrade will essentially allow Geelong to become better integrated to the Melbourne rail commuter belt. The upgrade will mainly include express track between Werribee and Laverton. The 2 new tracks will allow for Geelong trains not have to use the regional rail link. There are many more stages to this project yet to come, so continue to have a look at the development of this project on its website, as it's pretty much the earliest in planning of all the rail projects. This channel will also probably be covering it in the future. All of these projects are needed to meet Geelong's massively growing population. It's predicted to hit 500,000 by 2051, and many of these people will be needing to go into Melbourne on a regular basis, and many of them will be choosing the train to do so. And even all these upgrades are not going to be enough. There's already a business case going on for track duplication between South Geelong and Geelong Station, the most complicated part of the duplication. The upgrading of the Ballarat line was completed earlier this year and is the first part of regional rail revival to be complete. The project included duplicating 18km track between Deer Park West and Melton, building the new Coalbank station, and included upgrading numerous stations along the line. New train stabling, tons more car parking, new passing loop signalling upgrades, track improvements, and decommissioning the Bungaree loop with a new, more straight track alignment used instead. All of these features of the upgrade is a very significant step forward for the Western Victorian region, and Ballarat is now the best served regional destination in Victoria, discounting the Geelong Line. It now features more trains than ever in the peak times, and trains every 40 minutes in the off-peak, and while this 40-minute clock face frequency is not very convenient for travellers, overall it is still very worthy of commendation. Following on, we have the Ararat line. Benefiting in large part from the Ballarat line upgrade, passengers going to Ararat will now be able to get a 5th return service a day. Although not much has been done to the Ararat line, new train stabling has been built. This allows for 2 trains to be stabled overnight at Ararat to increase services. As the Ararat line already sees velocity trains, it has not been necessary to upgrading level crossings on the line. The Ararat line is a case of simple improvement to greatly improve service to Victoria's western region. As Victoria's 3rd major regional rail line, the Bendigo line is also featuring a major upgrade. There is likely more to come on the Bendigo line, as the Victorian government works towards increasing frequencies in the line to every 40 minutes off-peak, much like on the Ballarat line. There is surprisingly little happening on the Bendigo line itself, as most of the new track upgrades will be felt further out. The line will begin using electronic train orders. This will allow for increased frequencies and modernised signalling infrastructure, which will improve reliability. New rail stations are also being built at Huntley and Raywood. Of all the major rail lines, the Bendigo is certainly the one undergoing the least upgrades. I feel there is definitely more work to be done on this line to increase frequencies to Ballarat line levels, and hopefully the Victorian government will commit to these funding improvements soon. Works going on the Shepparton Line, Victoria's northeast, is very similar to the works going on the Warrnambool Line. Stage 2, which is currently underway, will essentially allow modern velocity trains to travel on the line, and will allow trains to run more frequently. Similar to the Warrnambool Line, this will feature signalling upgrades, track upgrades, and level crossing upgrades to allow these trains to run safely. Some platforms will also be lengthened to accommodate the velocity. This will involve stabling upgrades and allow for 9 return services to Shepparton a day, estimated to be completed by the end of 2022. Also, interestingly, Stage 3, which is not currently underway, will include boosting train speeds to allow for quicker journey times. The Albury Line is Victoria's only standard gauge regional rail line. The upgrades to the line are being done by both the ARTC and Rail Projects Victoria. The line is essentially being fully upgraded end to end to modernise it to take new velocity trains, which will be rolled out in standard gauge for the first time. Similar to other projects, this means there's going to need to be level crossing upgrades, but in addition, track maintenance and renewal is set to enable higher speeds and quicker journeys, and new bridges are being installed to make more comfortable journeys for passengers. As part of the project, velocity trains are being rolled out onto standard gauge for the first time. This will include a cafe car and other amenities more associated with long distance travel. The North East Line upgrade is almost complete at the moment thanks to an accelerated works program, and the line will also benefit from Inland Rail when that gets underway in a couple of years. As Victoria's final regional rail line, the Gippsland Line features many of the familiar features you would expect from the regional rail program. The primary package of works is essentially to allow an upgrade of the line to take trains that run faster and better. Velocity trains are now running to Barnsdale for the first time. However, more level crossings are currently being upgraded, as well as platform extensions at certain stations to allow for more frequent trains. The most impressive structure from the entire regional rail revival so far is the new bridge over the Avalon River at Stratford. This structure is very impressive and, as you can see from the visuals going on in the background, is a very modern and much upgraded feature compared to the old bridge. The new bridge will allow for higher train speeds and will be in place for over 150 years. Overall, after looking at all these aspects of the regional rail revival, it is easy to come to the conclusion that it is a very good project. This is something I'd like to see many other Australian regional rail networks attempt to implement, and improve frequency, or in some cases maybe exist some regional rail trains to South Australia. Australia's regional rail networks are known for being quite terrible compared to many other comparable nations, although they are certainly not as bad as in America or Canada. They certainly are in need of vast improvement, however. I do believe regional rail revival sets out a blueprint for the best way to conduct a set of upgrades. In my opinion, New South Wales should really attempt such track modernisations, although they are currently working to implement new DMU trains which will arrive in 2023 or 2024. But in addition to these works, upgrading frequencies in these lines would increase the livability of regional New South Wales. I'm sure you'll be hearing about regional rail revival from this channel again as it goes forward. And it looks like it's going to be another decade before this program is completed, and upgrades to improve Victoria's regional rail network continue on. If I had to criticise the project at all, it's the continued use of the Velocity DMU. By this point they are becoming slightly outdated, and in my honest opinion they need to start being bi-mode like the New South Wales new train fleet. Victoria should really be looking to expand its electrification to regional destinations in line with many climate goals of the Victorian government. This would also be very helpful for freight lines in transforming the way we move freight across Australia. If you haven't already, go check out Metro Man's video on the topic. Well, that's about all I have to say today. If you enjoyed the video, please check out the channel, like, subscribe, etc, etc. And I will see you in the next video.